Some of the best innovators in the world are our farmers. And so in this module, we're going to share with you a few highlights of how drones are being used for agricultural survey. So here in Australia, we have a thing called the dog fence, the wild dog fence, and it runs for hundreds, if not thousands of kilometres down from Queensland towards South Australia. Now, this wild dog fence is incredibly important to our sheep farmers because wild dogs are known to attack and kill sheep. And so, how do you monitor thousands of kilometres of a dog fence? Well, traditionally, way back when, it was done on horseback. Then farmers started to use vehicles and also quad bikes, and also helicopters and manned aircraft. But now you can actually monitor that dog fence using long-range drones. Pretty cool. You can take that imagery, process it, and put it into a piece of software which can show you change detection. So rather than having to have somebody constantly watch the video of this thing flying along, or stitching the photographs together to see what it looks like, you can put that straight into a piece of software which will go, oh, Catherine, the fence has changed here. It's missing or it's moved or something has happened. And then you know exactly where it is on that fence line where you need to go and fix it. I think this is absolutely a perfect application of drones in the agricultural space. Now, another thing that drones are being used for is actually mustering livestock. So we have farmers in central West Queensland who use their drones to fly up into rocky areas and rocky terrain, which is dangerous to walk in. You can't really get a quad bike in. You certainly can't get a four-wheel drive in there. So they fly the drones up and they use the drones, I suppose, like kind of sheepdogs, but for cows. And so they use the drones to actually muster the cattle down through the ravines into the fields to save them that risk. Brilliant application. So being able to muster and count cattle is something that drones can definitely be used for in agriculture. Other things that drones have been used for include looking for weed species or looking for diseases in plants. Being able to use different kinds of sensors on drones means you can detect things in different ways faster than if you could see them with a human eye. So for example, if you have a disease spreading through, say, your chickpeas, the leaves might behave a certain way in terms of changing colour or curling up slightly. And we're all familiar with seeing that in plants. But while a human eye might not necessarily see the changes, something like the NDVI settings on a multispectral camera could. Now, the NDVI settings are around looking at different types of infrared signals that you can get when you look at plants. There are things called hyperspectral cameras, which carry hundreds of bands worth of data, but that data is really massive. Effectively, what you want to understand with vegetation is just those different infrared sessions, so you can actually see how that's changing inside that leaf. I have a friend that works inside viticulture, so growing vines to make wine. And they're actually able to use some of their cameras and can see individual diseases happening in individual leaves as they go. That's pretty cool. But again, a lot of data is going to be generated by that. So biosecurity in agriculture have a great relationship when it comes to new technology. Being able to use drones to detect things like fire ant nests, which we know are a huge issue in the United States and cause hundreds of millions of dollars worth of agricultural damage and livestock damage every year. Plus, sometimes people have been killed by fire ant bites because they can be allergic to them, and there's lots of fire ants and they swarm and it's pretty nasty. So being able to detect fire ants rather than regular ants is probably something that's quite important. And using things like thermal signatures and some of those multispectral bands of data, you can actually work out the difference between a friendly ant nest and a fire ant nest. That's pretty cool. Other things I've seen drones be used for aren't just about taking imagery, but also spraying. So if you want to get towards this stage of the smart farm, how can you actually monitor your crops and spray them with minimal use of herbicide, saving you money and protecting the environment by not just dousing everything with herbicide or pesticide, where you can actually now have drones that are set up to map, pretty much automated mapping, which you plan. You set the drone out and it looks for the weeds and it targets those weeds and it sprays them individually, which means you're not having to douse the entire field. I think that's pretty magic. How to make the world a healthier environment whilst maximizing our food yields, whilst minimizing our risks to our farmers. So drones and agriculture, I'd say, go together very well, pretty much like strawberries and cream.